Hello. If you do not know, I am doing this because I'm extremely dyslexic and working on getting better at reading out loud, not only for me, but for anyone who has to listen to me. Without further ado, this is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, Book 1, Chapter 1. When I woke up, the other side of the bed was cold. My fingers stretched out, just seeking Prim's warmth, finding only the rough canvas covers of the mattress. She must have had a bad dream and climbed in with our mother. Of course she did. This was the day of the reaping. I propped myself up on one elbow. There was enough light in the bedroom to see them. My little sister Prim curled up on her side, cocooned in my mother's body, their cheeks pressed together. In sleep, my mother looks younger, still worn but not beaten down. Prim's face is fresh as a raindrop, as lovely as the primrose for which she was named. My mother was very beautiful once, or so they tell me. Sitting at Prim's knees, guarding her, is the world's ugliest cat. Mashed-in nose, half missing ear, half of one ear missing. Eyes the color of rotten squash. Prim named him Buttercup, insisting that his muddy yellow coat matched insisting that his muddy yellow coat matched the bright flower. He hates me. Or at least distrusts me. Even though it was years ago, I think he still remembers how I tried to drown him in a bucket when Prim brought him home. Stray kitten, belly swollen with worms, crawling with fleas. The last thing I needed was another mouth to feed. But Prim begged so hard and cried even. I had to let him stay. It turned out okay. Mother got rid of the vermin, and he's a born mouser. Even catches the occasional rat sometimes. Sometimes when I clean a kill, I feed Buttercup the entrails. He has to stop hissing at me. Entrails, no hissing. This is the closest we'll ever come to love. I swing my legs off the side of the bed into my hunting boots, slipping the leather that has molded to my feet, pulling on the trousers, a skirt tucked pulled on trousers, a skirt, tucked my long, dark braid up into a cap, and grabbed my forage bag. On the table, under a wooden bowl, to protect it from hungry rats and cats alike, sits a perfect little goat cheese, wrapped in basil leaves. Prim's gift to me on reaping day. I put the cheese carefully in my pocket and slipped outside. Our part of District 12, nicknamed the Seam, is usually crawling with coal miners heading out for the morning shift at this hour. Men and women with hunched shoulders and swollen knuckles. Many who have long since stopped trying to scrub the coal dust out of their broken nails, the lines of their sunken in faces. But today the The black cinder streets are empty. The black cinder streets? The black cinder? Cinder. Whatever. Shelters on the squat gray. Shutters on the squat gray houses are closed. The reaping isn't till 2. May as well sleep in if you can. Our house is almost at the edge of the seam. I only have to pass a few gates to reach the scruffy fields called the meadow. Separating the meadow from the woods, in fact, encloses all of District 12. It's high and it's a high chain link fence topped with barbed wire loops. In theory, it's supposed to be electrified 24 hours a day as a deterrent to the predators that live in the woods. Packs of wild dogs, lone cougars, bears that used to threaten our streets, but since we're lucky to get 2 or 3 hours of electricity in the evenings, it's usually safe to touch. Even so, I always take a moment to listen carefully for the hum that means the fence is alive. Right now it's silent as a stone, concealed by a clump of bushes. I flatten out on my belly, sliding under a 2-foot stretch that's been loose for years. There's several other weak spots in the fence, but this one is close to home. I almost always enter the woods here. As soon as I'm in the trees, I retrieve a bow and sheath of arrows from a hollow in the log. Electrified or not, the fence has been successful at keeping out the flesh eaters. Out of District 12. Instead, inside the woods, they roam freely, and there are added concerns like venomous snakes, rabid animals, and no real paths to follow. But there's also food if you know how to find it. My father knew. He taught me before he was blown to bits in a mine explosion. There wasn't even anything to bury. I was 11 then. 5 years later, I still wake up screaming for him to run. Even though trespassing in the woods is illegal and poaching carries the severest of penalties, most people would risk it. Most people would risk it if they had a weapon. But most are not bold enough to venture out with just a knife. My bow is a rarity, crafted by my father, along with a few others that I keep well hidden in the woods, carefully wrapped in waterproof covers. My father could have made good money selling them, but if the officials found out, he would have been publicly executed for inciting a rebellion. Most of the peacekeepers turn a blind eye to the few of us who hunt because they're as hungry for fresh meat as anybody is. In fact, they're among our best customers. But the idea that someone might be arming the seam would never have been allowed. In the fall, a few brave souls snuck into the woods to harvest apples, but always stayed inside of the meadow. Ugh. In the fall, a few brave souls sneak into the meadow. Sneak into the wood. Oh my god. In the fall, a few brave souls sneak into the wood to harvest apples, but always stay inside of the meadow. Always close enough to run back to the safety of District 12 if trouble arises. District 12, where you can starve to death in safety. I mutter, glancing quickly over my shoulder. Even here, even in the middle of nowhere, you worry someone might hear you. When I was younger, I scared my mother to death with the things I would blurt out about District 12, about the people who rule our colonies, Panem, from the far-off city called the capital. Eventually I understood that this would only lead us to more trouble, so I learned to hold my tongue and to turn my features into an indifferent mask so that no one could ever read my thoughts. Do my work quietly in school. Make only polite small talk in the public market. Discuss little more than trades in the hob. Where is the black market? Which is the black market where I make most of my money. Even at home, where I am less pleasant, I avoid discussing risky topics like the reaping or food shortages or the Hunger Games. Prim might be repeating my words, and where would I be? In the woods waits the only person whom I could be myself. Gale. I could feel the muscles in my face relaxing, my pace quickening as I climbed the hills to our place. A rock ledge overlooking the valley. A thicket of berry bushes protecting from unwanted eyes. The sight of him waiting there brings on a smile. Gale says I smile. Gale says I never smile, except in the woods. Hey, Catnip. Should I do voices? Hey, Catnip. I'm gonna go crawl into a hole. Except I'm not, because... Oh my god, okay. Hey, Catnip, Gale says. My real name is Katniss, but when I first told him, I barely whispered it, so he thought I said catnip. Then, when this crazy lynx started following me around in the woods, looking for handouts, it became his official nickname for me. I finally had to kill the lynx because he scared off all the game. I almost regretted it because he wasn't bad company. But I got a decent price for his pelt. Look at what I shot. Gale holds up a loaf of bread with an arrow stuck in it. I laugh. It's real bakery bread, not that flat, dense loaves that we make from our grain rations. I take it in my hands, pulling the arrow out and hold the puncture in the crust to my nose, inhaling the fragrance that makes my mouth flood with saliva. Fine bread like this is for special occasions. It's still warm, I say. He must have been at the bakery. He must have been at the bakery at the crack of dawn to trade for this. What did it cost you? Just a squirrel. I think the old man was feeling sentimental this morning, says Gale. Even wished me luck. Well, we all feel a little sentimental today, don't we? I say, not even bothering to roll my eyes. Prim left us cheese. I pull it out. His expression brightens. Thank you, Prim. We'll have a real feast. Suddenly, he falls into a capital accent as he mimics Effie's trinket, the manically upbeat woman who arrives once a year to read the names out of the reaping. I almost forgot. Happy Hunger Games. He plucks a few blackberries from the bush around us. And may the odds. He tossed the berries in a high arc towards me. I caught them in my mouth, breaking the delicate skin with my teeth. The sweet tartness exploded across my tongue. Be ever in your favor, I finished with equal fervor. We have to joke about it because the alternative is to be scared out of your wits. We have to joke about it because the alternative is to be scared out of your wits. Besides, the capital accent is so affected, it's almost Besides, the capital accent is so affected. Almost anything sounds funny in it. I watch as Gale pulls out a knife and slices the bread. He could be my brother. Straight black hair, olive skin. We even have the same gray eyes. But we're not related, at least not closely. Most of the families who work in the mines resemble one another in this way. My mother and Prim were light-haired and blue-eyed. That's why my mother and Prim, with their light hair and blue eyes, always look out of place. They are. My mother's parents were part of a small merchant class that caters to the officials. Peacemaker to the official officials, peacemakers, and occasional seam customer. They ran an apothecary shop in the nicer part of District 12. Since almost no one can afford doctors, apothecaries are our healers. My father got to know my mother because on his hunts he would sometimes collect medicinal herbs and sell them to her shop to be brewed into remedies. She must have really loved him to leave her home for the sea. I try to remember that when all I can see is the woman who sat by, blank and unreachable, while her children turned into skin and bones. I try to forgive her. I try to forgive her for my father's sake, but to be honest, I'm not the forgiving type. Gail spread the bread slices. Gail spread the bread slices with Gail spreads the bread slices with the soft goat cheese, carefully placing a basil leaf on each while I strip bushes of their berries. We settle back into a nook in the rocks. From this place we are invisible, but have a clear view of the valley, which is teeming with summer life, greens to gather, roots to dig, fish iridescent in the sunlight. The day is glorious, with blue skies and a soft breeze. The day is glorious, with a blue sky and a soft breeze. The food is wonderful, the cheese seeping into the warm bread, and the berries bursting in our mouths. Everything would be perfect if this was a real holiday. If the day off meant that roaming the mountains with Gail, hunting for tonight's supper. If all the day off meant was roaming the mountains with Gail, hunting for tonight's supper, but instead we have to stand in the square at 2:00, waiting for the names to be called. We could do it, you know, Gail says quietly. What? I ask. Leave the districts, run off, live in the woods. You and I, we can make it, says Gail. I don't know how to respond. The idea is so preposterous. If we didn't have so many kids, he adds quickly. They're not our kids, of course, but they might as well be. Gail's 2 little brothers and sister, Prim, and you may as well throw in our mothers, too, because how would they live without us? Who would fill those mouths that are always asking for more? With both of us hunting daily, there are still nights when game has to be swapped for lard or shoelaces or wood. Still nights when we go to bed with our stomachs growling. I never want to have kids, I say. I might if I didn't live here. Ugh. I never want to have kids, I say. I might if I didn't live here, Gail says. But you do, I say, irritated. Forget it, he snapped back. The conversation felt all wrong. Leave? How could I leave Prim? Prim, who is the only person in the world I'm certain I love. And Gale is devoted to his family. We couldn't leave. So why bother talking about it? And even if we did, where did this stuff about having kids come from? There's never been anything romantic between Gale and me. When we met, I was a skinny 12-year-old, and although he was only 2 years older, he already looked like a man. It took a long time for us to even become friends. To stop haggling over every trade and begin helping each other. Besides, if he wants kids, Gale won't have any trouble finding a wife. He's good looking. He's strong enough to handle the work of the mines. He can hunt. You can tell by the way the girls whisper about him that when he walks by in school that they want him. It makes me jealous, but not for the reasons people would think. Good hunting partners are hard to find. What do you want to do? I ask. We can hunt, fish, or gather. Let's fish at the lake. Let's fish at the lake. We can leave our poles and gather in the woods and get something nice for tonight. He says. Tonight, after the reaping, everyone is supposed to celebrate, and a lot of people do, out of relief that their children have been spared enough for another year. But at least 2 families will pull their shutters, lock their doors, and try to figure out how they will survive the painful weeks to come. We'll make out well. The predators ignore us on a day when we'll make out well. The predators ignore us on days when easier, tastier prey abounds. By late morning, we have a dozen fish, a bag of greens, and, best of all, a gallon of strawberries. I found a patch a few years ago, but Gale had the idea of stringing mesh nets around it to keep animals out. On the way home, we swing by the Hob, the black market that operates in an abandoned warehouse that once held coal. When they came up with a more efficient system that transported coal directly from the mines to the trains, the Hob gradually took over the space. On our way home, we swung by the Hob, the black market that operates in an abandoned warehouse once held by coal. When they came up with a more efficient system that transported the coal directly from the mines to the trains, the Hob gradually took over the space. Most businesses are closed by this time on reaping day, but the black market is still fairly busy. We easily trade off 6 of our fish for good bread and the other 2 for salt. Greasy say the bonny old lady who sells bowls of hot soup from a large kettle. Bonnie. Yeah, it says Boney. Oh my god. The bony old woman who sells bowls of hot soup from large kettles. Takes half the greens off our hands in exchange for a couple of chunks of paraffin. Paraffin? Couple chunks of paraffin. We might do a tad better elsewhere, but we make an effort to keep on good terms with Greasy Say. She's the only one who can consistently be counted on to buy a wild dog. We don't hunt them on purpose, but if you're attacked and you take a dog or 2 out, well, meat is meat. Once it's in... Oh my god. Voices. Okay, here we go. Once it's in the soup, I'll call it beef. Sure, that'll be her voice. Greasy says with a wink. No one in the scene would turn their nose at a good leg of wild dog. But the peacemakers who come to the Hob can afford to be a little bit choosy. When we finish our business at the market, we go to the back door of the mayor's house to sell half the strawberries, knowing he has a particular fondness for them and can afford our price. The mayor's daughter, Madge, why can't names be easier? The mayor's daughter, Madge. I'm gonna just go with that. The mayor's daughter, Madge, opens the door. She's in my year at school. Being the mayor's daughter, you'd expect her to be a snob, but she's alright. Being the mayor's daughter, you expect her to be a snob, but she's alright. She keeps to herself, like me, and since neither of us really has a group of friends, we seem to end up together a lot at school, eating lunch, sitting next to each other at assemblies, partners for sports activities. We rarely talk, which suits us both just fine. Today, her drab school outfit has been replaced by an expensive white dress, and her blonde hair is done up with a pink ribbon. Reaping clothes. Pretty dress. And her hair is done up with a pink ribbon. Pretty dress, says Gail. Madge? I don't know. I'm just gonna go with Madge. Madge. Madge shoots him a look, trying to see if it's a genuine compliment or if he's just being ironic. Madge shoots him a look, trying to see if it's a genuine compliment or if he's just being ironic. It is It is a pretty dress, but she would never be wearing it ordinarily. She pressed her lips together and then smiles. Well, if I end up going to the capital, I want to look nice, don't I? Now it's Gail's turn to be confused. Does she mean it? Or is she messing with him? I'm guessing the second. You won't be going to the capital, he says coyly. His eyes land on the small, circular pin adorning her dress. Real gold, beautifully crafted. It could keep a family in bread. In bread? It could keep a family in bread for months. What could you have? 5 entries? I had 6 when I was just 12 years old. That's not her fault, I say. No, it's not. It's no one's fault. Just the way it is, Gail says. Mag's face has become closed off. She puts the money for the berries in my hand. Good luck, Katniss. You too, I say, and the door closes. How long are these chapters? Okay, not that much more. Why do I feel like I've been reading for an hour? We walk towards the seam in silence. I didn't like the way Gail took a dig at Mags, but we walked towards the seam in silence. I didn't like the way Gail took a dig at Mags. But he's right, of course. The reaping system is unfair, with the poor getting the worst of it. You become eligible for reaping. You become eligible for the reaping the day you turn 12. That year your name is entered once. At 13 twice, and so on until you've reached the age of 18. The final year of eligibility. When your name goes into the poll 7 times. That's true. Your name goes into the poll 7 times. That's true for every citizen in all 12 districts in the entire country of Panem. But here's the catch. Say you're poor and starving, as we are. You can opt to add your name more times in exchange for tesserae. Each tesserae is worth a meager year's supply of grain and oil for one person. You may do this for each of your family members as well. So, at the age of 12, I had my name entered 4 times. Once because I had to, and 3 times for the tesserae grain and oil for myself, Prin, and my mother. In fact, every year I have needed to do this, and the entries are oh my god, I know how to say this word. Cumulative. So now, at the age of 16, my name will my name will be in the reaping 20 times. Oh my god. Gail, who is 18? Gail, who is 18 and has been either helping or single-handedly feeding his family for feeding his family of 5 for 7 years will have his name in 40 times. You can see why someone like Madge, who's never been at risk of needing a tesserae, can set him off. The chance of getting her name drawn is very, very slim, compared to those of us who live in the seam. Not impossible, but slim, and even though the rules were set up by the capital, not the districts, certainly not Mag's family, it's hard not to resent those who don't have to sign up for tesserae. Gale knows his anger at Mags is misdirected. On the other days, deep in the woods, I've listened to him rant about how the tesserae is just another tool to cause misery in our districts. A way to plant hatred between the starving workers of the seam and those who can generally count on supper. And thirdly, ensure we will never trust one another. It's to the capital's advantage to have us divided among ourselves, he says. He might say, if there were no ears to hear but mine. If it wasn't reaping day, if a girl with a golden pin and no tesserae had not made what I'm sure she thought was a harmless comment. As we walk, I glance over at Gale's face, still smoldering underneath his stony expression. His rage seems pointless to me, although I'd never say so. It's not that I don't agree with him. I do, but what good is yelling about the capital in the middle of the woods? It doesn't change anything. It doesn't make things fair. It doesn't fill our stomachs. In fact, it scares off nearby game. I let him yell, though. It's better he does it in the woods than in the district. Gale and I divide our spoils, leaving 2 fish, a couple of loaves of good bread, greens, and a quart of strawberries, salt, and paraffin, and a bit of money for each. See you in the square, I say. Wear something pretty, he says flatly. At home, I find my mother and my sister ready to go. My mother wears a fine dress from her apothecary days. Prim is in my first reaping outfit, a skirt and a ruffled blouse. It's a bit too big on her, but my mother has made it stay with pins. Even so, she's having trouble keeping the blouse tucked in the back. A tub of warm water waits for me. I scrub off the dirt and sweat from the woods and even wash my hair. To my surprise, my mother has laid out one of her own lovely dresses for me. A soft blue thing with matching shoes. Are you sure? I ask. I'm trying to get past the rejecting her. Are you sure? I ask. I'm trying to get past rejecting her offers of help. For a while, I was so angry and wouldn't allow her to do anything for me. And this is something special. Her clothes from the past are very precious. Of course. Of course. Nope. What voice should I give her? Of course. Let me put your hair up too, she says, letting her towel dry it and braid it up on my head. I can hardly recognize myself in the cracked mirror that leans against the wall. You look beautiful, Prim says, in a hushed voice. Hold on. You look beautiful, Prim says in a hushed voice. And nothing like myself, I say, hugging her, because I know these next few hours will be terrible for her. Her first reaping. She's about as safe as you can get since she only entered once. I wasn't letting her take out any testery, but she was worried about me. Thought the unthinkable might happen. I protect him in every way I can, but I'm powerless against the reaping. The anguish I always feel when she's in pain wells up in my chest and threatens to register on my face. I notice her blouse is pulled out of her skirt in the back again, and I force myself to stay calm. Tuck in your tail, little duck, I say, smoothing the blouse back in place. Prim giggles and gives me a small quack. Quack yourself, I say with a light laugh. The kind only Prim can draw out of me. Come on, let's eat, I say, planting a quick kiss on the top of her head. The fish and greens are already cooking in a stew, but that will... The fish and the greens are already cooking in a stew, but that will be for supper. We decided to save the strawberries and the bakery bread for this evening to make it special, we say. Instead of drinking the milk from Prim's goat lady, we eat the rough bread made from the tessary grain. Although no one has as much of an appetite. We eat the rough bread made from the tessary grain, although no one has much of an appetite anyway. At 1 o'clock, we head for the square. Attendance is mandatory, unless you are on death's door. This evening, officials will come around and check to see if this is the case. If not, you will be imprisoned. It's too bad, really, that they hold the reaping in the square. It's too bad, really, that they hold the reaping in the square. One of the few places in District 12 that can be pleasant. The square is surrounded by shops, and on a public market day, especially if there's good weather, it has a holiday feel to it. But today, despite the bright banners hanging on the buildings, there is an air of grimness. The camera crews perched like buzzers on the rooftops and only add to the effect. People file in silently and sign in. The reaping is a good opportunity for the capital to keep tabs on the population as well. 12, though 12 through 12 through 18 years are held into are 12 through 18 years are herded into roped areas marked off by ages. The oldest in front, the youngest ones like Prim towards the back. Family members line up around the perimeter, holding tightly to one another. But there are others too. We have no one they love. Oh my god. But there are others too who have no one they love at stake, or are no longer, or who no longer care. But there are others too, those who have no one they love at stake, or who no longer care, who slip among the crowd, taking bets on the two kids, whose names will be drawn. Odds are given on their ages, whether they're seam or merchant. If they will break down and weep, most refuse dealing with the racketeers, but carefully. These same people tend to be informers and who hasn't broken the law. I could be shot on a daily basis for hunting, but the appearance of those but the appetites. Oh my god, I hate it when they split the word like that. I could be shot on a daily basis for hunting, but the appetites of those in charge protect me. Not everyone can claim the same. Anyway, Gail and I agreed that if we had to choose between dying of hunger and a bullet in the head, the bullet would be much quicker. The space is getting tighter. More claustrophobic as people arrive. The square is quite large, but not large enough to hold the District 12 population of 8,000. Latecomers are directed to adjacent streets where they can watch the events on the screen as it's televised live by the state. I find myself standing on the in the clump of 16 from the seam. We all exchange tense nods, then focus on our attentions on the temporary stage that sets up before the Justice Building. It holds 3 chairs, a podium, and 2 large glass balls, one for boys and one for girls. I stare at the paper slips in the girls' ball. 20 of them. 20 of them have Katniss Everdeen written on them in careful handwriting. Two of the three chairs fill with Mag's father, Mayor Undersea, who's a tall, balding man, and Effie Trinket, District 12's escort. Fresh from the capital, with her scary white grin and pinkish hair, and spring green suit that they murmur to each other and then look with concern at the empty seat. Just as the town's clock strikes 2, the mayor steps up to the podium and begins to read. It's the same story every year. He tells of the history of Panem, the country that rose up from the ash of the place that was once called North America. He lists the destructors. He lists the destructors, the droughts, the storms, the fires, the encroaching seas that swallowed up much of the land. The brutal war for what little sustenance remained. The result was Panem, a shiny capital regained by a shiny capital ringed by 13 districts, which brought peace and prosperity to its citizens. Then came the dark days. The uprisings from the districts against the capital. The 12 were defeated and the 13 obliterated. "12 were defeated and 13 was obliterated. The tyranny, the of treason. The Treaty of Treason gave us the new law to guarantee peace, and as our yearly reminder that the dark days must never be repeated, it gave us the Hunger Games. The rules of the Hunger Games are simple. In punishment for the uprising, each of the 12 districts must provide one girl and one boy, called tributes, to participate. The 24 tributes will be imprisoned in a vast outdoor arena that could hold anything from a burning desert to a frozen wasteland over a period of 7 weeks. The competitors must fight to the death. The last tribute standing wins. Taking the kids from Taking the kids from our districts and forcing them to kill one another while we watch is the capital's way of reminding us how totally we are at their mercy. How little chance we have of standing how little chance we would stand of surviving another rebellion. Whatever words they use, the real message is clear. Look how we take your children and sacrifice them, and there's nothing you can do. If you lift a finger, we'll destroy you. We'll destroy every last one of you, just as we did District 13. To make it humbling as well as torturous, the capital requires us to treat the Hunger Games as a festival, of a sporting event, putting every district against the other. The last tribute alive receives a life of ease back home, and their district will be showered with prizes, largely consisting of food. All year, the capital will show the winning districts gifts of grain and oil and delicacies like sugar, while the rest of us battle starvation. It's both a time for repentance and a time for thanks, intones the mayor. Then he reads the list of past District 12 victors in the 74 years we've had. Exactly 2. Only one is still alive. Hamage Abernathy. Hamage Abernathy. Yeah. A punchy A paunchy middle-aged man who at this moment appears to be hollering something intelligible. Staggers onto the stage. Hamage Abernathy, a paunchy middle-aged man who at this moment appears to be hollering something unintelligible, staggers onto stage and falls into the third chair. He's drunk. Very. The crowd responds with its token applause, but he's confused. He tries to give Effie Trinket a big hug, which she barely manages to fend off. The mayor looks distressed since all of this is being televised right now. Right now, District 12 is the laughingstock of Panem, and he knows it. He quickly tries to pull his attention back to the reaping by introducing Effie Trinket. She bright and bubbly as ever. Effie Trinket Effie Trinket trots to the podium and gives her signature, "Happy Hunger Games! And may the odds be ever in your favor." Her pink hair must be a wig because her curls have shifted slightly off center since her encounter with Hamage. She goes on a bit about what an honor it is to be here, although everyone knows she's just aching. To get bumped up to a better district where they have proper victors, not drunks who molest you in front of an entire nation. Through the crowd, I spot Gale looking back at me with a ghost of a smile. As reapings go, this one at least has a slight entertainment factor. But suddenly I'm thinking of Gale and his 42 names in the big glass bowl, and how the odds are not in his favor. Not compared to a lot of the boys, and maybe he's thinking the same thing about me because his face darkens and he turns away. But there are still thousands of slips. I wish I could whisper to him. It's time for the draw, Effie Trinket says. It's time for the draw, Effie Trinket says, as she always does. That doesn't have quotations around it. I wonder if that's a typo. Ladies first, and crosses to the glass bowl with the girls' names. She reaches in and digs her hand deep in the ball, pulling out a slip of paper. The crowd draws in a collective breath. Then you could hear a pin drop. And I'm feeling nauseous and so desperately hoping that it's not me. That it's not me. Effie Trinket crosses to the back of the podium, smooths the slip of paper, and reads the name in a clear voice. And it's not me. It's Primrose Everdeen.